Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to our forum. On behalf of the Villages of Homestead, Audubon Clubhouse, and the Board of Directors, we'd like to welcome you all and hope that you enjoy the forum as much as I'm sure the residents of the City of Homestead will. I am the president of the Audubon Association, and I've been on the board for 30 years. So very familiar with how this works. I'm also a former elected official. I was a vice mayor, councilwoman for almost 15 years for the City of Homestead. So I know how this works. And we hope that you feel comfortable. If you need to stop for any reason, let us know. And we'll be happy to accommodate you in any way. I'd like to introduce our crew. We have Janice and Dr. Assis over here on the cameras. We have Ted Moscynski, our moderator, Evelyn, our timekeeper, and my hubby, Mervin, over there taking pictures. I'd like to thank Larry Mano, he is our Clubhouse manager, and he helped facilitate all of this. And I was neglectful to not thank the Olive Garden earlier in the last forum for sponsoring this event for us and feeding everybody, because we will be here until about 7 tonight. So Olive Garden, Mr. Chip, thank you so much for doing that for us. At this time, I would like to introduce to you Ms. Anna San-Roman. She was with the city for many years, and we actually worked together for many years. She got me back from Washington when I was snowed in one year, so I'll never forget that. And my dear friend, Councilman Sean Fletcher. Again, we've known each other forever and a day, and thank you for your service. And we will proceed. I'll turn it over now to Ted.
Okay. Good afternoon, both of you. I'm going to go over some rules here real quick, and then we'll get into the questions. We're going to give each of you a 2-minute introduction to tell us why you're running, what's your platform and vision for the city. The opening will start with the incumbent, and in the closing, and you'll go first. Okay? So, with that said, you'll get 2 minutes for the, this is VA. Sorry. I can report. That'll be the message. Anyway. I'm sorry.
You cut and go back?
No, I don't even know what they're calling them. Anyway, so Sean, if you would begin for 2 minutes, tell us why you're running, what's your platform and vision for the next 4 years.
Yes, thank you, and I want to appreciate each and every one of you for what you've done. This is very nice, and we thank you for putting this on the agenda for the residents of Homestead so they can see the differences that we may or may not have. We might have some of the same ideas, but I really want to thank you for that. Again, my name is Sean Fletcher. I'm the current councilman for District 2, which is the Keysgate seat. I've been a councilman now. This year will be my 6th year. 1999 through 2001, and then I took a hiatus and I became a Homestead Police Reserve Officer for 15 years. And then in 2019, my neighbors and friends asked me to run again because they were tired of seeing some of the things that were going on in Homestead. It was not an easy decision to make, but at that same time, if you don't step up to the plate and take action, you don't have any play in the game, and therefore you lose out. So I took the opportunity to run, to represent my neighbors and the rest of the residents of the city of Homestead. Some of the biggest issues that we were fighting then are still on the plate now. Okay, so number 1 back in 2019 was our crime rate. Number 2 had to do with traffic congestion, and number 3 had to do with some of the developments that were going on. I think I've been successful in providing some insights and moving forward in helping some of those out. Number 1, I've been able to be the standard bearer, and we've gotten 14 new police officers in the city of Homestead since I came on council. These were the first ones in many years. You'll probably ask a little bit about those. I understand my time's almost up, but I really do thank you for this opportunity and look forward to representing the rest of rest of the residents for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Ms. Ann?
Thank you. My name is Ana Sandoval, and I'm running for the same seat, Council Seat 2, which is Keysgate. Just a little bit of background. I moved to Homestead in 2001, and I began working for the city in 2002. I worked for 8 different administrations, which is not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. Some administrations were good, some not so good. But either way, being behind the scenes and working in the city manager's office, I learned to see how things worked, what people wanted, what people didn't want, what people liked, didn't like. And I live here. This is my community, and I take everything that happens at Homestead very personal. And I just didn't like the direction in which I see our city heading. There's a snowball effect, and there's a lot of changes that are being implemented with respect to ordinances, with respect to variances, with language, which really makes an impact of how projects get approved and passed through and put in front, where the public really, unless you're really vested in, doesn't know what's going on. And so I felt that hearing, many complaints and traffic and infrastructure and all of this, if I didn't do something, and the only thing I could do was run for office and try to improve our quality of life and make things a little bit more tolerable, and going forward just a little bit more public awareness of what's being put here. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, thank you. Now, this next question, well, the first question, I'm going to give each of you 3 minutes to answer because it's a multi-part question. Anna, what do you believe is the most important for our city right now? Building new homes, commercial space, rehabbing or better utilizing our existing homes and storefronts? And then I'll follow up with the second. Well, the second part of the question is, will you support a building moratorium of residential housing? If so, how long will that moratorium, should it take place? And if not, how will you plan to improve the city's infrastructure, including water, traffic, public transport, schools, medical treatment facilities to include hospitals, shopping, and city services to support more housing? Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't think more housing is necessary, for one. I think that the city needs to really focus on commercial properties, and I think we have enough people to accommodate all the commercial property that could be put here. We don't need to add more people. We've already got enough people. And it's not, public housing or private or county funding for homes. It's not anything personal. It's frankly just the fact that we've grown in the last 20 years from a population of maybe 12 or 15,000 people to a population of close to 80, and that's, being kind. So what I remember when I started working for the city, that the Darden company came down and they wanted to open, which they have, the Olive Garden, the seafood restaurant that was there, the lobster.
Red Lobster.
The Red Lobster, thank you so much. The Red Lobster, the Olive Garden, the steakhouse. And we were so excited because at that time, what we had was McDonald's and Burger King and all those restaurants. And the whole community was just excited to get those restaurants. Through the years, I see that every restaurant, and I was involved in economic development before I retired, so I see, and I've spoken to restaurant and stakeholders in the community that are franchisees, and they've all said that the franchises that are located in Homestead have the best results in terms of the public that they serve. So I don't think that you can take residential and say, okay, we're going to build all these extra homes so that we could bring down 2 or 3 restaurants. And if we want to bring down restaurants, which I'm sure they would be happy to come with additional or non-additional homes, let's encourage those establishments to open up in the downtown of Homestead. Let's revitalize the Homestead. Let's make that a community where the community can come together instead of the east side and the west side and everything is here. So I'm not sure if I got to all the points and I'm being asked or wrapped up. So I personally think that there's a lot of room for commercial property. I don't think residential should continue to increase, and frankly, that's one of the reasons I'm involved. So thank you for the question, and I hope I didn't miss too much.
No, I think you got it all. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, thank you. So first and foremost, let's talk about the number of folks we do have here in Homestead. The consensus estimate's somewhere around 80,000, but I believe it's closer to 100 if you look at the actual number of people that are in the city and the way that, the number of cars and people that are living in people's houses. I don't believe we're getting a full account of everybody who lives in the city of Homestead. When it comes to housing, I don't agree with additional new housing at this point. There are still some items in the pipeline where people have been coming to the city for quite some time, and they have specific rights on that land. Now, some of those are going to come to us and want housing on it, and that's going to include some commercial land too that we're not going to have a whole lot of say over now. I'm really for commercial investment in the city of Homestead, and if you notice, there's a lot that has happened on the east side of town, commercial-wise. The Park of Commerce finally has almost 1 million square foot of commercial storage space going in over the next 2 years. We have the Florida City gas station that just went in there. There's a potential restaurant, potential another storage area, and another community type venue going into that area. So commercial is where it's at right now. But let's not forget that some of this commercial property that is on the table with Senate Bill 102, people who own that land have certain rights with that. And at that point, they can come in here and say, hey, without even coming to the city council, as long as they're not asking for variances on that property, they can come in and build apartment complexes or housing, as long as 40% of that capability is for subsidized and or workforce housing. And we can't do anything about it as a citizen or as a city. That is their right to use on the land. As far as a building moratorium, I have been one of 2 people that have requested a building moratorium in the city of Homestead over the last 4 years. That I can leave it at that. We've had no support whatsoever when it comes to that. I would look at rebuilding a lot of our locations. Homestead is primed for folks to come in here and start tearing down some of the older structures and rebuilding and revitalizing Homestead, and that is actually starting up on the north end of the city on US 1 where the Mario's restaurant is. You'll see that that's being started up there, and I think you're going to see a wave of new constructors coming into town to do that. Thank you.
Okay. You both mentioned all right, well, don't go with rebuttals.
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, 30 seconds to rebut. Sean, if you'd like.
I would just like to reiterate what Mr. Fletcher is saying with regards to commercial, and there are some restrictions that we have to, or there are some stipulations that we have to abide by. However, I think that the council as a body can do a lot more with the developments that are being proposed in terms of what's allowed and what's not allowed, and variances and special exceptions, and all of those things need to be really considered for special things.
Okay. Sean, it's part of, you basically agree on your hands are being tied by the state. So as part of your rebuttal, if you agree or disagree with Ms. Chairwoman, part of our issue has been rezoning. Things have gone from commercial to multi-use, to residential only, and the city has allowed that. Now, if the city were to control and stop giving those zoning variances, would that help us combat the negative effects of the state's new Senate bill?
In some aspects, yes. There are some zonings that were put in place many years ago, before the time that even Ms. Waldman was on council, that still reside there today. There are some things that we can do. There's a recent application. There's a recent application where, you know, they're requesting a larger area to be rezoned to include up to 36 units per acre along the Campbell Drive corridor. I don't agree with that. There's one individual requesting that. Let's do it for that piece of property if we're going to, or not, and the next application can come in and do it on their own and try to get that as well. Thank you.
Okay, because that is something that we have noticed. Seemingly, every time a developer on pre-approved something that was done as part of the DRI long ago, and then the council allows them to rezone. What would you do, Ms. Rowland, to stop that rezoning from continuously happening?
To say no.
Okay. Would you be able to get support from the rest of the council?
Well, I think that council is, you know, one of the difficult things about being on council is the fact that not everybody feels the same thing about everything. And you have to, you know, learn to negotiate and to be able to get along and to come to a decision that fits everybody as best as possible. I think that the majority of council is not okay with all this overdevelopment that's going on. I don't think that there's anybody that says okay. So I don't think it would be too hard to get that coalition together.
Sean, do you agree?
No, again, I agree with some of her points, but at the same token, I've sat on the dais for the last 4 years, and we've had these discussions where some of us has requested, you know, the building moratorium for a period of time, so we have time for the infrastructure and services to catch up. And we've been met with blank stares or absolutely no votes. And I blame that personally on folks that happen to have a real estate license, that happen to serve on the council with me.
Okay, thank you. You both mentioned Main Street, downtown. Do you think our Main Street downtown is healthy and successful now? How would you improve Main Street? Sean, you go first.
Sorry, I'm the one making that phone. So I can tell you and the rest of the residents, and you can read it or you can see it online from previous council meetings, I'm not a fan of the plan that has been utilized for downtown Homestead. We have wasted hundreds of millions of dollars on downtown Homestead for what we have there right now. People from this side of town don't want to go down there. Number one, because they don't feel safe. Okay, that's part of the getting more police officers. Number two, it's not clean. We haven't been able to get the services down there to keep it clean. Number three is it's a busy highway that runs north and south that connects the Florida Keys to North Florida. We have, if we're going to spend money and do something down there, we have to find a way to close it off and make it friendly and safe for the individuals of the city so they want to come down there, and we have to have attractions downtown for people who want to come.
Anna?
So I don't think that downtown Homestead is by any stretch of the imagination the way that it should be. I think that is a gem in the raw. I think that the issues that we have with crime has to do a lot with lighting, with amenities, with restaurants, as I said earlier, with family entertainment, all of those things that a thriving downtown in other cities throughout Florida that have the same population or close to it that have thrived in downtowns, which by the way is a huge attraction to the public, local and otherwise. There's a lot that the city can do to revitalize the downtown without having to spend too much money and provide safety and security, family entertainment, and all, you know, all the things that draw people to downtowns.
Well, you mentioned things that could be done, what, such as?
For one, lighting. That is the first thing. That's not an expensive fix. I mean, there's some roads that are not highly trafficked in the city that have light posts every 10 steps. We need to have that kind of, that provides security. Darkness, lack of people, all of that just promotes crime, undoubtedly. I also agree with Mr. Fletcher in we need more police officers. We absolutely need more police officers. Right now, the population, if you call the police and it's not a shooting or some crazy thing like that, you're going to have to wait.
Okay, that leads me to my next question. After researching numerous sources, Homestead in 2022 ranks among Florida's most dangerous cities. It is actually ranked number 2 due to elevated rates of property and violent crime. What do you believe contributes to this, and what further steps can be taken to reduce crime?
So clearly, the first thing is adding more police officers to our force. You need to have police presence for people to feel safe and secure, and you need to have quick responses, and that's not happening. We are in the middle of other either municipalities or cities that have a high crime rate, and they pass through here. So that contributes to the high crime rate. But I think there's a lot of things that can be done that don't take millions of dollars that would increase our safety.
Okay. Sean, same question, but let me tell this because I'm sure you're aware. What does it cost per year to bring on one police officer?
So let me start by first saying that I think those numbers that people read and they see online are inflated. And a lot of that is because a lot of the areas that are outside of the city limits of Homestead are still considered Homestead when they perform these FBI reports. When you get to the down and dirty city limits of Homestead, your numbers are going to be a lot lower than that expanded area of Leisure City, Naranja, the Redlands. Some of those areas still have have Homestead as their address when it comes to their zip codes. So that's all comes into effect. Right now, to bring a new police officer on board is about $180,000 a year. That's benefits, training, all of that. Equipment, so it's about $180,000 for one new officer. And that goes up, and that includes retirement benefits and things of that nature. That starts going up incrementally as you move forward throughout their lifetime.
Okay, speaking of retirement benefits for police officers, how much of their budget is being spent on police officers that are no longer on active duty, that are either retired or have either retired or were medically retired, whatever the case may be, where they're still receiving benefits from the city?
So I'm not exactly sure of that number, but that is coming from their pension fund, not from the city of Homestead general fund balance.
So they do generate and maintain their own.
They do maintain their own fund. However, we as citizens and homeowners in the city, we do have to make an annual contribution to that.
What is that annual? Do you know?
It's right around $1 million.
Okay.
And there's some things we can do to change that in the future, but we have to look at that as a whole.
All right. Do either of you know, with a city of approximately 100,000, how many police officers should we have? Do you know, Anna?
I don't know, but I do know that based on an 80,000 person population, you require 200 police officers. So I'm not a numbers person, but whatever percentage
How
that
many do we
is.
have now?
I believe it's 127.
That sound right?
Yeah, 127, 130, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But that number should be around 185, based on the
So somewhere between 185 and 200?
200, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Many in our community complain of traffic around the city. Do you think that our development contributes to the traffic problems? First part. How would you mitigate and improve the traffic, mindful that many of our roads are not under our control? They're either county or state roads, and from what I understand, that can be a pretty complicated process to get them to provide the funding and mainly the funding to take care of their own roads. So, who went first last time?
How much time?
This one, I'll give you 2 minutes for this one. So, Anna, why don't you go first on this one?
So our traffic is definitely a problem for most. I mean, once you get on the turnpike, you're stuck in hours. We have no control over the turnpike. But getting to the turnpike should be, at least those 5 or 7 minutes should be a pleasant experience. We don't have, in fact, we have a traffic light on Maori and Farm Life that's been up there for a good part of 7 months, and it's just a light. It doesn't work. It's never been turned on. We need people in the administration that make a ton of money to be able to be involved in these sort of things, because it's not just putting something forward, it's following through with the process. When schools are approved to be built, there's a traffic study that's done, and they have to meet, the ingress and egress. They don't do that. And then you have and really I think the major part is rush hour and the school zone, pickup and drop off times. Other than that, I think our traffic is okay. So there would have to be implementation, and it wouldn't be that expensive to enforce the rules and laws that were passed when those schools were passed. And traffic moderation is definitely an option, but there's other things that can be done that would be less costly and probably just as effective.
All right, Sean?
Yeah, so let's start with saying Homestead is a bedroom community for the most part. We don't have industry where people can go to work down here. So we've had, over the years, we're the most affordable land where people can come down here and purchase their homes. So that's what's happened to us. We've become a bedroom community. With that being said, has the development contributed to some of our traffic issues? Absolutely. And some of those developers have paid the city some funds to help install lights that haven't occurred yet, to help with some of that traffic flow. Some of those issues, the light that she specifically spoke about, is due to come online sometime in October. That's the last number we've heard. Along with the county is implementing an overall traffic improvement program that's supposed to start countywide on October 24th of this year. Again, those are the numbers we're being told by city staff. Those are the numbers that I have to believe. When it comes to improving traffic, some of the things that I've done, a lot of the roadways are controlled by the county and the state. But I've been successful in getting roads in the community resurfaced by constantly staying on the county, giving them telephone calls, having staff stay on them. I asked the question of the city staff to stay on top of them. So constantly, like every road in the District 2 community has been resurfaced that enters into any Keysgate residence. That's one thing I promised to do, and that's one thing that I lived up to. And that's from me staying on top of the city staff and calling my county representatives as well to make sure it was budgeted.
Okay. Speaking of specific lights, are you familiar, I know you are, Sean, because where do you live? And I don't know where you live. Where do you live?
In the fairness done.
No, okay. So you're familiar with the circle and the double lighting by the high school and the new Publix that's going up. There was another accident there yesterday. There's an accident there, I believe, at least once a week that are reported. There's other little fender benders that people just go on. The lights are not timed properly. That's obvious. You've both driven it, you know. You can get the green coming out of Florida City at Tennessee, and you go right into a red, and that light will switch all the way back into the intersection of the road that runs Tennessee and Palm. I'm assuming that's a county road, is that correct? What can be done? I guess the big question is, did the city have any input into the timing of those lights and the way that circle was laid out? And if not, how can we ensure that something like that doesn't happen in the future? What can be done to correct that particular light now? Because that affects your district probably more than anyone else. Anna?
So, as I said previously, this is about administration and follow through. When you have a situation like that, if you call the county and never speak to them again, or expect them to meet, whatever request was made, it's not going to happen. So you need people that are going to be on top of all of these things that are not working, that are frankly not serving any purpose except just money, and figure out that the timing is something that the county, for the county roads, they're the ones that adjust the lights for the timing. So if you have people that are engaged, that understand these problems, that appreciate these problems because they have to go through that intersection. If your kids are going to Keysgate High and they have to cross the street and people are going 50 miles an hour, other people are going 10 because they're looking for their son or their daughter that's getting picked up. Those are issues that, with police presence and with being on top of everything and calling and having tenacity, those problems can be resolved.
Sean?
And so if you remember, that initial installation there was just a traffic calming circle. There was no lighting. I thought it was working just fine. The county came along without any notice to the city of Homestead and installed those traffic lights. In my opinion, way too many traffic lights that cause confusion, have caused accidents, and the timing is horrible. Again, that is one of the items that we have asked to be placed on the list for recorrection of timing. I have not personally followed up on that one, but those are items that are supposed to happen in October. That's something that, again, it did fall off of my radar, and it shouldn't have, but it's back on there now.
Okay. School zones. Got a lot of school zones around the area. But in my personal opinion, there's one school zone that is not the designated that should be. Many children attend that high school and they come from Venetia Gardens. And they're crossing that road. Why is that area not a school zone? If anywhere needed a school zone, it's that little cut of land there. Especially with the heavy trucks that fly through there and the people that happen to catch the lights and go flying towards the east. Is there anything that you could do or you would try to do as council person to correct that situation? Sean?
Absolutely, and we have to reach out to our local school board representative. I agree with you 100%. Hindsight being 2020, I've been out of high school for a lot of years, so I try not to remember going back to those days. But you are 100% correct that people traverse that roadway, and it's a hazard waiting to happen. So first bit is to contact our school board member, have them do a study, or just implement it. I think the study doesn't need to happen. I think you just need to implement it. That would be the action I would take, and then I would have the city staff follow up on that and continue pushing that until it got done.
Okay, thank you. Anna?
So I don't know exactly what is entailed in getting a designation of a school zone, so I can't speak to that. But what I do feel is that we don't have the communication and the working hand in hand with the school board, with the county, with all of these things that are really our partners in solutions, in providing solutions. So I can't speak to how we get that done, but that it needs to be done is absolutely imperative. And there's another school that is on 328, which is I think it's a charter school, and it's an elementary school. And when the dismissals happen, the kids are actually coming out onto the street that fronts BJ's, which is 328. I'm not 100% certain, but I see that a traffic nightmare because there's no ingress, egress, there's no traffic control for that school. And these aren't even high school kids, they're little kids. And parents stop in the middle of that 328th Street to pick them up. It's a nightmare. So that's definitely an area that needs to be visited.
Which street is 328? I've never gotten the numbers down.
The street that goes right before, right in front of BJ's, that's 328, right? I believe it's
Lincoln
Marquee.
Marquee, it's in the city
Yeah,
of Florida
it's
City,
not,
about agreed 100%.
Yeah,
It's
Lincoln
not
Marquee or whatever.
It's horrible.
All right, you both mentioned employment. Employment opportunities in Homestead are few and are often paid lower wages than jobs that are taken nearer or in Miami. Nearer to Miami or actually in Miami. Homestead residents have been promised local paying industrial tech jobs for years. Since I moved here in 2004, I've been hearing this mantra. With little to no positive impact on the number of quality jobs that include both benefits and higher wages. Other than the Park of Commerce, because I know that they have the boat builders there, and I know because they're skilled trades, they pay them pretty good money. But the bottom line is, there's not a high number of quality jobs that include benefits and high wages. What do you think can be done to finally bring high-paying jobs to Homestead? And with that being said, is that a pursuit that is even worth pursuing any longer? A result that's worth pursuing any longer? Anna?
Well, again, this goes back to, the projects that get approved in the city, whether they're residential or commercial, and what type of commercial development we're talking about. For example, the LNG plant, everybody was talking about the LNG plant and the employment numbers, and it turns out that it's all automated. There's only one person that watches the monitor, and that's it. So the quality of commercial properties and projects that are approved are extremely important for job creation, for higher wages. But it's as Mr. Fletcher has said, this is a bedroom community, and most of the things that are here pretty much the same as the Keys. It's restaurants, food and beverage, entertainment, which are not, extremely high-paying jobs. We're not the financial capital of the world. We're not, we don't have that. We don't have those things available. Can we bring some of that? Yes, but we can't compete with Brickell, or we can't, with all these different areas of Dade County that, do have the facilities, the buildings, the infrastructure, everything that you would need to be able to afford that to our residents.
Okay, so in a nutshell, I believe what you're saying is that bringing those high-paying jobs to Homestead, our own infrastructure and our location, because we are a long ways from the airport, which most of these guys need access to, is contributing to the problem. Sean, would you agree? Well, first answer that question. Do you think can be done to finally bring high-paying jobs to Homestead? And the second part being, is that a pursuit worth doing any longer?
So my internal belief is that the city of Homestead has never been good at marketing itself. We have all the opportunity. We are 45 minutes from downtown Miami. We're 45 minutes from the Florida Keys. I think we're in the center of everything, and people who live outside of the city would probably enjoy a ride to work going south on the turnpike where everybody else is going north if we could have some of those jobs that we're right here in the city limits of Homestead. We have not done a good job at marketing the city of Homestead and its property out here. And the Park of Commerce is the #1 location for any type of high-paying jobs, I think. The Amazon building that was built that is currently unoccupied, you know, we're being told that eventually that's going to open, that COVID slowed it down. You know, I'll believe that when I see it. But there are other companies that have looked at Homestead and have chosen not to come here because of a lot of it had to do with crime rates and not having the support apparatus available to them. And a lot of people just didn't feel like making an hour-long drive south, even though I think it would have been a much smoother ride for them to come down.
Along that line, part of the reason why they don't come here, including the Air Force expanding, or the DOD, Southern Command was considered to come down here. That was actually its first location that was chosen. But the guys up in the Pentagon that oversee those things and the incoming commanding general said, no, they don't have the schools for our kids. What can be done to improve that? Because that's a huge command. I've never seen it around. There's a lot of people working there and they make a lot of money. And now they're all in Garrard instead of here because we didn't have the schools. That's what it really came down to. They did not like the quality of our schools. What can be done to improve our schools? Because I know we don't control them, but what kind of pressure or what avenues could we attack to improve our schools in a rather short time? Not dragging out over years, but in a short time. And
Really, that's a school board issue. The quality of teachers, the quality of the education. It's really up to council to be on top. It's follow through. It's working, being able to work together with the school board to ensure that the quality of education are not, you know, the standard being a C school, or that somebody has to go. For example, I know that the Air Base Academy, every parent in Homestead that has lived here, and maybe not even the ones that have lived here a long time, want their kids to go to Air Base Elementary because it is such a good quality school. It's hard to get in there. It's a lottery system. And your parents have to be involved in service in one way or another. I don't know what the parameters are. We need to, whatever was done with Airbase, that needs to be implemented to all the rest of the schools. Quality of teachers, follow through, working with the education, the commission. It's all about just working together with people to get the results that you want. And I believe education is very graduating that can add 2 and 2.
mm-hmm.
So that's our future. We're on our way out. We need to ensure that these people are getting the basics and the background and the platform that they will need to be successful, not just now, to be successful in the future. And hopefully they will be here and not go somewhere else with those talents and that education.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Flexer.
Yes, thank you very much. And, you know, I want to say that the schools have improved since I was in high school here. When I graduated South Dade in 1990, we have 3 of the best magnet schools in the Miami-Dade school system that are located right here in the city of Homestead. Now, we have some other schools that are not as high performing. We need to bring standards up in those schools as well. But South Dade Senior High School, Homestead Senior High School, the Medical Academy, the old James Archer Smith Hospital, the Everglades Preparatory Academy happens to be a charter school. You know, charter schools may have to come back into that discussion because the county's not going to approve additional schools down here. So that's one of the things we have to look at. But that's land, and where are we going to put them? We have to make that decision. And working with our county representatives and our county school board members is one of the priorities that the citizens of Homestead need to have through whoever is their representative on the city council.
Okay, just a backtrack a tad. Part of the Air Force's issue and other companies, it's not so much, it's not only the quality, it's the number of seats available. And the 3 quality schools you just named, they have limited enrollments. What could be done? I guess you kind of answered that question, both of you. I mean, you mentioned charter schools and you mentioned we need to expand the schools and improve the teachers and this and that. However, as you said, we don't control how many schools. And I'm curious as to who makes that number, because recently our council person mentioned that we have plenty of schools and plenty of seats for the number of residents we have here and the projected residents that we expect in the next 5 years. As far as I know, that's an isolated opinion, but what do you think about that at all? About that particular statement, that we've got enough schools. We don't need any more schools. Sean, you go first.
Well, I think that person's not in touch with reality. If they come and look at the school right across the street here every morning, and the number of students that come here, or Keysgate or Homestead, you know, we have 4 major schools right here in the Keysgate District 5, if we count the one south here next to the turnpike. And every one of them are stacked full. I think they've lost touch with reality if they're saying that.
Okay.
We have to do more.
Ms. Waldman.
I do, excuse me, I do believe that we do need additional schools. Right now, your classroom, your average classroom is 30 to 40 students. When all of these projects that are going forward are approved and people start moving in and bringing their kids where they're going to go to school, there's no telling how many students. And that goes to the quality of education, because a teacher is more in charge of crowd control than they are of teaching a class. So definitely I think that we need more schools. And again, you know, a lot of these issues is just having the tenacity. And I'm retired, so I have plenty of time to be able to work with other stakeholders in whether it's education or what it is, to be on top of everything to make sure that we get what we deserve and what we need.
Okay. I'm going to ask you 2 short questions, and so that I'll allow to give you time to agree closing statements. First one being, recently the Planning and Zoning Board was terminated, which, as you know, was run by citizens, and they made recommendations to the city. For whatever reason, that was eliminated. So how would you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in the future? Go ahead.
So I was very disappointed to find that the Planning and Zoning Board was disbanded. I think that was an important committee for the city, because you had input from all different aspects that would make a recommendation that, frankly, I thought council should follow. So in terms of involving the community, I don't know how you can excite people into being involved with that process, because frankly, to sit in a council meeting from 6 o'clock in the afternoon to midnight is just something that people, your lives are too complicated and too busy, and your family and everything else to be involved in the process itself. But I do think that there are avenues where agendas can be put forth. I know where my mom owned her property for 30 years, every time there was a rezoning, every time that, it wasn't just a little sign that they put on the property, and if you happen to drive by, you know that they have an intent there. Every resident, registered resident in that community would get a letter in the mail or a postcard in the mail that said, this particular property is going to be rezoned for this or for that, or this is going to be built, and they request and invite the public to be part of it. I don't know how much of a difference that would make clearly, but But I think that would be, something that could be implemented, and again, it wouldn't be that expensive to let people know, hey, this is happening. If you want to see change, if you don't like what's happening, if you want to know what's approved and unapproved, then you need to be involved.
Okay, thank you. Sean?
Yes, thank you. So I was one of the no votes when this item came up before council, because I think she answered the question perfectly. It takes, the opinion and the representation from the community away from a citizen board that was appointed to provide us with recommendations. I can tell you that now we have what's called a licensing planning board that occurs just prior to a council meeting, and it's pretty much we're going to read this again when it gets to the council meeting. So there's no real forethought or discussion unless you take the time personally to meet with the applicant beforehand, which most of us do, but there's always somebody who knows the charter a little bit better than I do from the city standpoint, or somebody who might be on the planning and zoning standpoint that's going to have a different opinion that may change my mind ultimately. So I always like having that additional input in from the planning and zoning board. If it were up to me, I would bring that board back along with a couple of the others that have been gone away with. Again, it's also wanting to have citizens that want to get engaged with the community and be ready to support us on these type of endeavors as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Final question. Would you support amending the city charter to mandate that council seat votes are restricted to the representative district only? As you know, right now it's a citywide vote. Many feel that that's unfair because they want council persons that are beholden to them, not the entire city. So what would you think of something like that, or particularly changing the charter, like I said, to restrict council votes to the communities that they represent, the districts that they're part of? I think it went Anna last time. Sean?
So I would support single district member districting in voting, and I think along with that we should have contribution limits to when you're running for election. I don't believe an election should cost $50 or $80 or $100,000 to run to represent the citizens of Homestead for a job that pays $400 a month. Okay, so we unfortunately involve some crazy money in these elections, and people from outside of our district can control who gets in our district. And that individual needs to be representative of the individuals that live next to them and in their community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anna?
I don't know that I would like that and support that. I would have to really do a little bit more research, because I'm really about this community. And when I say community, I don't really just mean Keys, even though that's my district. We need to look at things in terms of the city and what the city has to offer its residents, from security to education to all of those things. So, it definitely would have its pluses and definitely would have its minuses, and I'm not equipped at this point to be able to support one way or the other. It definitely I would need to do some more research on how that affects, the elected body. But I think we should strive to kind of be representative of Homestead, because whenever we support anything in the county or the state or the federal government for that matter, it's not Keysgate that gets to go up there. It's not, Waterstone that goes up there. It's the city of Homestead. And so if every council member has a stake into the entire city as opposed to just their little area, I think it would have a better outcome.
All right, let me throw a wrench at you. I've done a lot of research on this.
Okay.
Cities of this size, 75,000, 100,000, have district representative councils. We are extremely rare to do it the way we're doing it. As you know by the number of voters that vote, Keysgate pretty much carries the election over all 6 seats, including that plus the mayor. So with that being said, would that possibly change your thought process? That we are actually an outlier the way we do it now? in many successful communities, between 75,000 and 100,000 people, do it the way that we're discussing.
So if you've done the research and, and that's you know, the way it is, then of course, what I want is the best that we can offer. As a council person, my position on every council person is you are there representing your community, and you represent your community like you represent your family, like you represent your home, like you represent everything that affects your everyday quality of life and what you are going to leave behind. So whatever form of arrangement that brings about that, then that's what I would vote for or be in favor of.
Sean, any comment to that?
So I would just reiterate that, you know, as an elected official now, even though I sit in what's called the Keysgate District 2 seat, I do represent the entire community. I do fight for additional items for our community because I see our people a lot more than I see people from other communities. But I represent the entirety of Homestead, no matter what it takes. So if I get calls from folks who live outside of my district, they get the support. However, when it comes to the long run, this is how our city should go as single member districts.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of my questions. So starting with you, Sean, we'll give you 1 minute to kind of close yourself for the day.
Well, again, thank you again for hosting this informational forum. I've learned a lot from the questions that you've asked, and I appreciate Ms. San Roman being here as well. Again, my name is Sean Fletcher. I've been a resident of Homestead since 1979. I've lived in Keysgate since 1993, and I've fought for this city not only on this side of the dais, but out on the streets of Homestead as a police officer. So I'm here to tell you I understand what the citizens of Homestead see on a daily basis, and I also see what needs to be done. I respectfully ask for your support when it comes to this election. We are at a critical time in the city of Homestead. There are a lot of decisions that need to be made in the very short time frame that are going to affect this city for a very long time. A lot of them have to do with developments and commercial uses of property, and especially when it comes to the overall, what do they call that, the RTZ, or the transportation corridor between here and Miami-Dade County. That's tremendous impacts to the city of Homestead. So with that, again, I thank you very much.
Real quick, did you have a website or a way that people could learn more about you and contribute to your campaign?
Yes. So my website is www.reelectseanlfletcher.com. Or you can call me at 786-298-7365. That's my personal cell phone number. If I don't answer you right away, I will return your call, and you can ask anybody who's ever called.
Okay, thank you. Anna?
So I want to echo what Mr. Fletcher said. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's very hard to go door to door and cover everybody. So this is a wonderful opportunity, and I very much appreciate that. I'm in this for one reason. The reason I'm in this and that I decided to run for elections is because I think Mr. Fletcher mentioned it earlier, you just can't complain about things if you're not willing to step up and try to be part of the solution. And the things that are affecting this community are the things that are affecting me personally. My son is the baby is 22 years old. He grew up, he went to school here. I see the things, the construction that's going on, the influx of people. There has to be a personal stake in this to be able to have your full effort. And that's what I'm willing to offer the people, that if they so choose, and I am fortunate enough to represent you, I will bring to the table. Plus the inside, looking from the inside out. So I thank you for the opportunity. I do have a website. is www.voteanasanroman for council. And my cell number is 786-226-6765. And I would welcome anybody that would like to reach out to me for complaints as well as any other concerns that they may have.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thought this went very well and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Can you just, one second, I don't want to interrupt that shot.
Thank you.
I want to thank you both for coming. I realize it was the middle of the day. I know sometimes it's inconvenient, but we thought it would be a good opportunity to hear your thoughts. On behalf of the Villages of Homestead and our committee, again, we will be issuing videos of this on social media. You will each get a link and you can share them whichever way you see fit. So with that being said, thanks Ted, you did a great job. And Evelyn, you're a great timekeeper. So see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.